Pull my heart out of my chest, train my mind so I forget. Sink your teeth into my bones, dig me out, then fill the hole. Tear me apart and watch it burn. Tear me apart and watch it burn. All that's left is a window to my soul. Come and get it. Mouth to mouth, I breathe you in. Swallow down your jagged sin. Let it drown inside my veins. The sweetest poison I could take. You make it an art, the way that you scar with every word. But before we reach the end, strip me down again. Come and get it one more time. Whoa. If you wanna lose your mind. Whoa. Come and get it one more time. Whoa. If you wanna lose your mind. Whoa. Come and get it. Come and get it.
Hello everybody! How is everyone doing? Welcome to the Game 1 of LuBu versus the Illidancing Queens. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day, and welcome to the community, Ronin89. But very quickly, before we continue, you may be wondering what the map picks and bans look like, so let's hop over there for just a second. So, we had Tomb of the Spider Queen and Towers of Doom banned out by our right team, the Illidancing Queens, and Alterac Pass and Brax's Holdout banned out by our left team. Which led to the... Oh, very quickly, the Illidancing Queens did win the coin flip and chose first pick. But they decided to take us to BOE. LuBu, that is. I have these backwards. I will fix them in a moment. But, yes. So coming back to our draft, we do have the Zeratul and the Hanzo being banned out by LuBu, as well as the Greymane and the KT being banned out by the Illidancing Queens. So far, nothing super abnormal. I'm a little curious about that Zeratul pick, excuse me. But I'm guessing it was a targeted ban versus someone on the Illidancing Queens. Yet again, I don't know too much about these teams in question. I should probably do some more research prior to the games. But hey! We do see a Mal'Ganis being picked up on the right side. Pretty typical tank to see coming out from a Div C team, as well as Johanna and Artanis. Artanis bringing a lot of race to the objective, as well as camp clear with that amateur opponent. I personally wouldn't consider the Immortals amateur, but what you gonna do? It's just a talent name. I'm curious what we'll see with that Mal'Ganis. We do see a Li Ming, again, more race coming out. I'm curious that we haven't seen a Vala ban or pick yet. I'm guessing we'll see that either banned or picked in this phase here. But we do also see a Lucio providing a lot of anti-poke. He's really good at dealing with that. And we will inevitably be seeing a sound barrier coming out to help deal with the Blessed Shield and such. A Genji ban, I guess another targeted ban? I'm not seeing anything in the chat confirming or denying that, but you never know. I don't like that ban here, personally, unless it's like a serious targeted ban, or they're picking someone very squishy who really can't deal with a Genji. But even then, I feel like there's people who do that job better right now. Especially with a Johanna. Johanna is pretty easy to deal with Genji. However, Cassia trying to deny that double blind, which is pretty decent in general because of the extra damage from Cassia on those blinded targets. We will see a Jaina Raynor, the bread and butter of the lower divisions, and just in general. I mean, they just synergize so abnormally well with each other. There's no reason not to pick up those two with each other. But I am really curious what we'll see here. They still need a sustained damage dealer and still need an off-laner. And we see Vala and Blaze. Vala coming out a lot later than I would have expected, to be honest, but both sides picking up a huge amount of race. I'm not sure whether they'll have Mal'Ganis or the Blaze in the off-lane. Both can deal with that very well. But I do like the zoning opportunities that are brought out by the Blaze. Lots of choke points, lots of yeah, words. Suddenly completely lost my train of thought. I forgot what I was saying. But yeah, there's a lot of race here, a lot of potential. And I'm very curious to see how things will work out for the coming match. We do see a lot of camp potential on both sides. Vala brings a lot of camp potential, as does I already said Vala, as does the Lucio. A lot of people don't credit how much potential he really actually has when it comes to doing camps. But yeah. I'm very curious and very optimistic, and I don't... Yeah. We'll have to see how things come out. But I did fix that. So let's see. I do like this Dukov on this map. He brings a fair amount of race, fair amount of aggression, and lots of zoning. But we have a match to play at this point. So, for LuBu, we have Makrota on Johanna, Bandit on Raynor, VDZ on Gina, Streakwing on Stukov, and Alan Hicks on the Artanis. We also see Pina Colada on, for Illidancing Queens, we see Pina Colada on the Mal'Ganis. We see, I have no idea how to pronounce that, Yutaru on Vala, Hooken Phoenix on the Li Ming, and Born to Shine on Lucio, as well as Zestrin on the Blaze. Lots of aggression coming out from both teams in this early stage of the bot lane. However, we did see a fairly passive Blaze up top, just trying to get the Artanis to play a little aggressive, as he can punish that aggression, but can't really cause it. Meanwhile, we will be seeing the Vala going into the Hungering Arrow build, as we usually see here. Power Hungry on the Li Ming, so that could be either Orb or Teleport build. We do see Accelerado on the Lucio, and New Habits on the Blaze to give him that Unstoppable. Oh, as well as Vampiric Aura. Just a quick reminder to anyone who might think that Wingguard would be the better talent here, that is an illegal talent at this point in time due to a bug with it. We will see the right team coming down to pick up this bot camp here. Pina Colada trying to zone out just as long as he can, but he's losing a lot of health doing that. Lots of aggression coming out, leading straight to Pina Colada's death with that beautiful silence, preventing anyone from doing anything to help him. Speaking of that, no one to help, the Li Ming goes down on the outside wall here. Lots of aggression coming out from the LuBu here, and they might take early 2 towers, and this is very beneficial to them, as the Bruiser camp, when they pick that up inevitably, will be able to push straight onto fort with no wall in front of it. Looks like only 1 tower going down, though. But not a whole lot of health to the other one. Both teams are rotating up to their Bruisers. Try and get as much of a view on both as we can. In fact, actually it doesn't look like Illidancing Queens are going for that Bruiser right away, instead trying to steal that camp away from LuBu. There's no way an Artanis like that can get out, not without significant help, and everyone was busy doing the camp. So unfortunately, he goes down. Johanna did try and do her best, but with everyone up top like that, there's only so much a knight can do. However, it does look like Artanis picked up that camp, which I did miss. Meanwhile, the Raynor will be pushing this bot lane with this camp, at least for a little bit. Vala losing a lot of health to the wave. which she will have to pick up her tap to deal with. Meanwhile, Illidancing Queen's playing on the defensive here, just trying to get them off the Immortal, but with this being a 5v3, they are going to lose the halftime, leading to just kind of a reorganization as both teams try and decide how they're going to take this halftime. And it looks like Illidancing Queens definitely want to win subjective, which if they win this fight could be very beneficial, as obviously they'll be able to get their own Immortal, but if they lose, they're going to have a very strong and healthy Immortal and not a lot of people to defend it. Jaina getting burned very quickly by the double tank stuns, being very dangerous, and we'll see that become more and more dangerous as the game progresses, in all honesty, as Stukov does not have a cleanse. Meanwhile, the fight is won, but Jaina will be up very shortly, so they need to play this very safe, using their damage to race and their tank and healer to try and zone out as much as possible. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to do it long enough, and it looks like... Oh, the stun may have just saved Mal'Ganis there. The Immortal peels are real. This will be going top, in case you are not aware of how this works. It goes to the most defended lane on the map, which in this case is top, as we did see the LuBu, the left team, take out that front wall in the bot lane. Meanwhile, it does look like Artanis wants to get more in the bot lane. Actually, no, he's rotating up to try and join this fight, but he's putting Blaze in a very awkward position as he needs to rotate down. This is a 5-minute Immortal, though, so it's not going to get a whole lot of value, and both sides have plenty of race to burn down this objective with. But Mal'Ganis losing a lot of health there, getting blown up very quickly with the Jaina Raynor combo. We actually didn't see Ace in the hole, which means the synergy is a lot lower there, but that silence leading straight to the Lucio's death. It did look like we saw a big slow. The Johanna did not go for the big slow, so that was a Stukov slow, and I think we've seen 2 of those. So at 13, if he takes up that root talent, that's going to be a big scare that Illidancing Queens has to be aware of and has to deal with. Meanwhile, that invade does put Illidancing Queens in a furthermore awkward position, as they now have to clear this camp, and they won't have it pushing during the next objective. This gives Artanis plenty of time to start this camp. However, they did show, the Illidancing Queens did show very much that they wanted to fight this camp, meaning Artanis just has to back out and soak the lane. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, this 4-man rotating in, stealing this fort away, as well as this bottom camp. Illidancing Queens has to make a choice here. Do they rotate down to defend this camp, or try and push with their own and take as much as they can before the enemy team rotates up? And it looks like they will sit around for only a few minutes, not wanting to fight a man down, even though Blaze did show up to join in the fight. LuBu yet again on their bruiser camp. This being very important, especially with this siege down here that the Illidancing Queens has to deal with. This is going to put Illidancing Queens in an even further awkward position, as they need to decide whether or not to stay bot and lose the halftime show, but keep their keep walls, or try and race. And it does look like they're going to try and outrace their opponents, which, being a man down, as Blaze had to go the long way around the enemy, is going to lead them to losing the halftime show. And it looks like with the 10 advantage, LuBu does want to try and push that advantage hardcore, getting a nice swap on Mal'Ganis, who is going to attempt to walk out. Ring of Frost does come out, landing on 2 people with the silence right below it, leading to an immediate double kill, and not a thing they could do about it. They're going to try and drop this Immortal's shield the best they can, but there's only so much you can do in this situation. They desperately need 10s, which Blaze is attempting to get, as well as clearing this camp. Luckily, they were able to get the shields down a little bit further, and a little bit goes a long way in this position. And honestly, this is the best lane that could have been pushed by the Immortal for LuBu, as it's the most pushed up. There's a lot of opportunities that they have, like what they're setting up here, where they're proxying the Immortal. They're going to take a bit of damage for it, but Stukov should be able to keep him healthy until the Immortal shows back up. With that, amateur opponent, I think it procs on structures. Artanis is going to be able to burn the structures, however, getting knocked onto the other side of the wall does not help him at all, as he's immediately blown up. Big Silence trying to zone out the enemies as best they can. Johanna getting stunned and stun locked and getting ripped apart by the enemy team. That Iron Skin not up to save her. Stukov swiping the best he can, but not in a position to save the Johanna. Speaking of not in a position to save it, they just actually barely managed to save that keep. However, speaking of the waves that I was talking about earlier, this is 2 catapults on this keep wall. Not a whole lot of value coming out, but still requiring Blaze to deal with it. Illidancing Queens is definitely on the back foot so far, just trying to chase around the map. Doing everything they can. As we see, it does look like they're going to try and go for this camp. Being on the same talent tier, they really want to try and get one good fight out of this game. But Mal'Ganis is completely separated from the enemy team, meaning this 4v4 is not favorable at all, as evidenced by the fact that Johanna's Blizzard does nothing. However, her Ring of Frost, on the other hand, leads straight to a Vala kill and swiftly following a Lucio kill. The full LuBu team trying to push heavy on this keep, trying to get the keep that they lost the opportunity to kill earlier, and they do finish that out. This does mean that there's even more passive XP going in favor of LuBu, meaning they will need to do less soaking and camping in order to maintain that advantage, as well as constant catapult pressure, which, with that wave pushed up, they need to deal with that fast, or those catapults will be on core in a heartbeat. Again, the invade coming out. I know I'm a little slow on this, but the invade coming out to this camp, again denying that opportunity for the enemy team, which wasn't on talent tier and really couldn't take that fight. Again, this Immortal is just getting burned. Johanna able to completely zone out the enemy. Ironskin making that sleep have no value. Big stun coming out on the Rainer, though, completely blowing him up. But in reverse, the Li Ming gets completely detonated. Stasis does come out from the Mal'Ganis to save his own life, but his teammates fall very quickly, as no one's able to save them. The bunker, I don't think, was close enough, or they were stun-locked. Either way, they go down. Mal'Ganis burning a lot of health here to try and keep them... actually not sure. I think he was just body blocked in that corner. He was just trying to do what he could. The position just becomes less and less favorable for the Illidancing Queens. They could very easily come back if they could survive till 20, as Li Ming does have some solid 20s. Rainer does have a really solid 22. And this being a full health Immortal pushing on the keep, as well as a Bruiser camp right behind it. This could very easily be game if LuBu does not mess this up. If they do, even if they do, this is almost certainly keep, which is going to put Illidancing Queens in even more of an awkward position. Hyperion coming out very early, getting the early siege out there before the Immortal even steps up. Sleep coming out on 2 opponents. No follow-up available as the Hyperion does zone them out. Li Ming dropping very quickly. Blind falling on literally the entire enemy team. Big stun coming out, but even bigger Ring of Frost and Blizzard, burning down Mal'Ganis very quickly and preventing him from channeling his ultimate. Lucio just barely slipping through the enemy damage. Same thing with Blaze. Damage does come out on this core very quickly, and that Immortal has way too much health. This is GG, meaning game 1 goes to LuBu. So very beautiful game 1 for LuBu. Let's take a look at these stats. It does look like most of the damage was in the hands of the Jaina, which does make sense. I saw some serious blizzards out there. Meanwhile, more damage did come out from the side of Illidancing Queens, which means on a more team fight focused map where there's not really the balance between the immortal and the team fight, we might see a very different story. So let's hop over to this between the games screen while I set up the next game. IQ. First pick or map pick. I don't know why my caster overlay is having issues, but hey! That's LuBu, isn't it? Did I confuse the teams? Yeah, Illidancing Queens is right. LuBu, I thought. Am I confusing captains? I think I might be confusing captains, but hey. So let's give the teams a little bit to strategize and figure out what they want to do. I'm gonna double check that I'm not messing this up and that it is in fact the captain trolling me. Which it could very well be. Still gonna double check. Because I don't know these captains. LuBu is Streakwing, Illidancing Queens, Born to Shine. Never mind. Alright, so the Illidancing Queens do want map pick, so I will give them that. So I'm going to set up this lobby very quickly. Not very talkative today. Either way, welcome Colonel and Talems. Glad you could join me for this cast. Lobby link. LuBu versus IQ Game 2. Once again, there is a poll down below. I will check that in just a minute. But you're welcome to vote which team you think will win this game. Swap team. Doesn't look like we have any votes so far. But yeah, I'm actually enjoying this so far. Stalking the enemies. still missing 3 of you. For a second there, I thought that they ignored my advice from game 1, which was to not be in a party. But it looks like everyone is good to go. So I'm going to give them a minute or two to strategize as they get into Sky Temple. But yeah, I'm optimistic. Sky Temple could be the opportunity for Illidancing Queens to make a bit of a comeback. This opens up a lot of opportunity for the damage that we saw in Game 1 to be placed into enemies as opposed to objectives. Especially if they can keep up on camp timings, because they did fall behind, and that led to a lot of issues in the Game 1. But I'm optimistic. I kind of want to go to a Game 3. But we will have to see. Both teams are... LuBu is ready. Sure. we got a sure from Illidancing Queens. Alright, let me double check that I have everything set on my end. Which I do. Awesome. So yeah, let's get into game number 2. So, good luck, have fun. So, welcome ladies and gentlemen to game number 2 on Sky Temple. I think I messed something up, but I think we're okay. Thank you for asking, Professor Rosa. For those of you who missed game number 1, you may be asking, how did we get here? So, allow me to show you. So, we had Tomb of the Spider Queen and, Towers of Doom being banned out by our left team, LuBu. Meanwhile, Alterac Pass and Brex's holdout were banned out by the Illidancing Queens. LuBu did decide to take us to Battlefield of Eternity, which they won very handily. Meanwhile, Illidancing Queens decided that they wanted the map pick after the game number 1, taking us to Sky Temple. With that, let's get back to the draft. Any mega plays? We saw some serious, good, yeah, there were some pretty solid rings that we did see, in the first game. Usually they led to double or even triple kills. It was... I do wonder if we see the Jaina either picked earlier by, Illidancing Queens, or, banned out by Illidancing Queens. But we'll have to see. Either way, I'm optimistic. We do see the Zeratul ban again, which further cements the fact that I think that is a target ban. And we do see the Dahaka ban out from the right team. Very important on a map like this. This is a very large map where Dahaka can get a lot of value just by jumping in on the objective that the enemy doesn't want them to. There's bushes everywhere, vision is everywhere. We do see a KT ban, a very, very major staple of this map, as it's basically impossible to see his flame strikes on this map particularly. We do also tend to see him banned out on lower tiers. Johanna first pick, that's pretty standard. I think she's the most first picked in Div C, if not pretty much every other division. But yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't see a cold snap. We didn't get to level 20 last game. We do see an ETC Stukov. I was wondering if they would pick or ban the Stukov on the side of Illidancing Queens. It looks like they are going to prioritize it. And a good Stukov arm with a mosh, especially if he goes low blow at 1, that could be disgusting. And I've seen it work. I've also seen it fail terribly. But yeah, it's we do also see the Gul'dan and the Rhaegar on the left side. Two also pretty standard picks for this map, if I recall. Gul'dan's Corruption can get a lot of value anywhere where he knows where people are going to be standing, and Rhaegar is just solid for the camps. And the extra utility is nice. He's usually online before the first objective if they're soaking well, which is very helpful. We do see the Raynor ban coming out as opposed to the Jaina ban. They do have the next pick, so they might try and pick her up. Never mind! Both Raynor and Jaina, bread and butter, banned out in this second ban phase. So I'm curious if we see the Li Ming again. She wasn't able to get many resets, but with an ETC, she might have a different story. Yeah, we never know what we'll see. I didn't actually check last game if Stukov got any killer roots. I don't think he did. Now the question is, as we see this Uther, obviously this is a Divine Mosh. But is Uther tank? Or is Uther offlane? Because they both can do either. Welcome, Special Kid Miles, to the stream. I hope you enjoy your stay, and you're welcome to vote down below on your favorite team here, as well as participate in the chat. I will try and engage as best I can. We do see the Maiev and the Arcanus coming out from LuBu. I'm curious about the Maiev. You don't usually see a Maiev with a Gul'dan. And apparently I was wrong! Uther is neither offlane nor tank. Apparently they're using him for a damage slot. This makes me very curious. So this is a hyper carry Zul'jin. That is absolutely for sure. And Stukov is capable of a fair amount of damage. But I'm very, very curious. I'm curious of both these teams' strategies. Either way, we're in for a very interesting game number 2. I'm still curious. I'm getting blown away by this draft. It's... Does anyone have any ideas? I'm legitimately confused. Apparently Colonel has something against Illidancing Queens. Very quickly, that does remind me, I did want to pull up the poll, which is 100% in favor of LuBu at this point. If you're an Illidancing Queen, make your voice known before we go to a game 3, possibly. Either way, we have a game to announce. So let me do all those things. So for LuBu, we have Magrota on Johanna yet again, Alan Hicks on Artanis yet again, Bandit on Gul'dan, Streakwing on the Rhaegar, the Wolf, VDZ on the Maiev. Meanwhile, for Illidancing Queens, we have Born to Shine on Stukov, Pina Colada on the ETC, Hooked Phoenix on the Uther, Oturu on the If I'm forgetting his name. Zul'jin! That's his name! And, Zetrin on the Ragnaros, who's trying to get some early XP. And probably Q-Stacks? Yes, Q-Stacks. So, this is still a very interesting game. It's even more interesting, we see the Artanis going bot. It looks like LuBu wants to change up the rotations, at least temporarily. These lanes are further, so they might have a harder time with that rotation. And it does look like they are thinking the same thing, as they were leaving Rhaegar behind. And if he didn't go for the Wolf at 1, which he didn't, he's going to have a hard time rotating between these lanes in pace with his team, which could lead to a very awkward start to this game. It does look like LuBu is doing a good job at denying Zul'jin's stacks. That could hurt into the late game. Speaking of into the late game, we see Uther stacking his quest very early. Sulphurous Hunger stacking very early. We do see the low blow that I was thinking about. We do see reactive parry this time coming out from the Artanis, which makes a lot of sense in all honesty. I'm normally a big advocate for the big invade coming out. Big stun on the Rhaegar. Nothing really coming of it, unfortunately, except some free damage. That's gonna hurt LuBu going later into this game if they don't clear it up right now, which they are. LuBu is ahead on camps, but that invade, denying them that siege, is gonna put them in a bit of an awkward position. Uther just being able to stack up his level 1 quest here. We're seeing a lot more aggression coming out from the Illidancing Queens than we did last game. Speaking of aggression, Zul'jin finally starting to stack up on that Maiev a little bit on the mid lane. Does look like Stukov wants to get this camp. Zul'jin is coming to help. But speaking of camp, this camp's going to get a fair amount of value before they finish this one, I think. And Ragnaros is thinking the same thing, playing very safe here, just trying to poke it out with those meteors. ETC does rotate up, getting that splash damage from the Ragnaros E. Big corruption coming out. That's, I think it was 3 or 4 stacks right there. This is a game of aggression, which is really interesting, especially coming out from Illidancing Queens, as they are most certainly on the back foot before 10. This is, I honestly can't say. This is both very interesting tactics. We did see Stukov channel the middle for a little bit, but it does look like they want to fight 5v5 over this objective. Gul'dan stacking that corruption very quickly, almost halfway there. Lots of aggression coming out from the ETC, trying to lock down that Maiev, who just vaults away and then teleports. Silence coming out in the choke point, trying to zone their re-engage, but doesn't seem like they want to re-engage, as they'd much rather just clear that camp for free. The last bit of the channel did go in favor of Illidancing Queens, but as you can see here, very much that top objective did not go in their favor. Which means they desperately need to try and get the advantage on this bottom objective. Which they're attempting to do, but it's literally impossible to lock down a Joe with her Iron Skin active. So that was a fair amount of cooldowns blown on an Iron Skinned Johanna. LuBu could just give this up to try and get head on Soak or something. Especially now that the Molten Core has been popped, increasing the zoning and damage potential of the Ragnaros. As you can see by the Johanna getting just melted by the combined amount of power. Again, this will be a very interesting game going into level 10, especially with it being as close as it is now. I say as close as it is now, but it looks like Maiev wants to just free take this top fort, which I absolutely agree with that call. If they're not going to defend it, to be fair, it didn't have a whole lot of health to begin with. But yeah. I'm very curious what both teams' plans are. Because with a Maiev, you usually see something like a Jaina or something with a lot of AoE. Lots of corruption stacks coming out there, and lots of damage coming out on the Taz Dingo. Which is getting healed up at least a little bit, but there's no way they can fight this 3v5. LuBu getting vengeance for the invade earlier on their poor little wolf. I'm curious what the positioning is here. I can definitely see LuBu trying to go for their camp. But it looks like Illidancing Queens is already positioning as though they're playing catch-up. They're, yeah, I'm not sure why they seem to already be playing a little scared, as they could easily come back from this. They just need to try and get an XP lead. But, like, we're seeing stuff like the 3 down here trying to deal with this camp. There's only an Artanis here. Meanwhile, these guys are getting ready for the Bruiser camp, which is going to apply more pressure up top while this objective's up. And they're playing catch-up, which, I mean, makes a little bit of sense because they are behind on levels. But I don't know, I feel like they could play a little bit more aggressive. But we'll see. We'll see. They definitely do seem, both teams being very obsessive over the objectives on this map, which makes a little bit of sense. But yeah, they seem to be willing to fight for a very long time over just one of the objectives, which will put both teams in a very interesting position. Illidancing Queens can really afford to do that, though, with the Lava Wave, which I'm guessing is going to get sent top sometime soon. Probably with the next minion wave spawning. Yep, looks like I was right. Meanwhile, the Johanna does get stun-locked. Not a Divine Mosh, instead a stun-lock Uther, which just completely burns the enemy down. The Mosh does get interrupted almost immediately, with the Cage of the Warden coming out as well, and a Fear right on top of it. Very interesting choice. I mean, it does keep your areas in an area, and it does silence them. But I can't say I agree with the tactic. It didn't seem like it worked well for them either. Ragnaros does pop Molten Core to help speed up this objective, killing minions, as well as push the lane a little bit just for free. Meanwhile, LuBu, taking the advice of our chat, probably without even knowing, hopefully without knowing, because that would be illegal, and trying to push mid. Though they are getting punished very aggressively for it, as the cooldown is just blown up there by the stun lock between the Uther and the ETC. That's a lot of CC that the enemy has to deal with. And I'm not sure whether or not Uther and ETC's armor stack. I don't think I've seen them pop simultaneously. But if they do, that's going to make for a very difficult to kill cow. Speaking very difficult, it looks like with the enemies sticking around, they don't want to take on the boss, which makes absolute sense as Gul'dan does come back up. It would have been a nice boss call had the enemy not scouted it out, but at this level of play, there's no way that they are not going to scout it out. We do see the siege camps picked up for both sides, but only LuBu wants to push with it. With Uther, I'm assuming those are Uther's pings, for assistance defending this bot fort. We do see the ETC coming down, but that's not going to be enough. However, that Lava Wave, that should scare off the enemy team quite significantly, as they're only going to have a siege camp, probably for the next little while. The counter synergy there between the Mosh and the Swipes. ETC does get feared out of the Mosh, stuns come out all over the place, ETC just staying alive through literal hell. He does get hit with the corruption pretty heavily, but manages to survive it. Both teams just surviving, huge amounts of damage coming out, just trying to find a single pick on anyone. Everyone is significantly low. Ragnaros does come out as the Maiev does fall. Speaking of falling, the Artanis goes down just as quickly. Johanna getting slowed and hit with the, I honestly don't know what that's called. The tower form of meatball. This might be a boss call, as they seem to desperately want to try and get this boss at every opportunity. And to be fair, the enemy team does have to deal with this, so this boss should be as free as a boss can be. Not to mention they can pick up bottom objective, meaning this boss isn't even going to need to go through a fort. Meanwhile, this middle fort will not survive this barrage. Shouldn't get much damage on a keep, but will not survive the barrage. Uther will sit on the point while the rest of the team pushes. I do very much agree with this call, as this objective will now get all 3 forts, and even this playing field, if not put it completely in favor of the Illidancing Queens, especially with top being given up like that. That's all 3 forts completely gone, without a doubt. There's also this boss, which is getting a little bit of damage down here, and the objective is still firing, which means we will see the front wall go down. Probably not the well, but the front wall is not going to survive this barrage. We will see, it looks like a 4v5 top. Illidancing Queens is positioning for the escape, but testing is a little further up than you might think, probably trying to get some of those stacks as he's already low. Everyone trying to run out, but the fear keeping them in place. Big mosh coming out on 4, except for Johanna. Gul'dan falling very quickly in this favorable 4v5 as Uther shows up, stun-locking the Artanis somewhere in there. And Johanna, the Iron Skin, not enough to save her. Lots of aggression coming out on the side of the Illidancing Queens. Very rightful of aggression. So I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. We aren't going to see a holy cow. We're instead going to see hammers and dancing and just no one can do anything. Very interesting plan, but it seems to be working very in favor of them. I wonder if this was something that they were trying to save, but they needed to pull out. The corruption did get finished somewhere in that last team fight, which makes a lot of sense since everyone was on top of each other. This is, lots of damage coming out on both sides, specifically the Illidancing Queens, which I don't think have the ability to get out of this. Testingo does fall, as does Artanis, meaning it's a 1-for-1 trade. Very favorable trade, though, for the side of LuBu, especially since they're behind on experience. That fear leads to the Ragnaros death. There's no way he gets out of this. But the rest of the team has plenty of time to walk out. They are deciding to hearth. Uther hearthing a little risky, but they make the right feeling that the LuBu is going to invade their siege camp. Invades coming out left and right on these siege camps. We're seeing that, yeah, both sides do not want the other to get that siege camp at all. I know this is only my second cast, but I think this is the most invades I've seen from either side, like, consistently. Because it is interesting that we don't see them pick up their own camp, but they do prioritize this fort instead. Which, considering this is a 4v5, they should be able to... I was going to say should be able to get, but it looks like they want to let the... They're going to back off as the rag comes up. They don't want a repeat of the 4v5 earlier in this match. As, yeah. But instead, they are going to push this while Ragnaros clears butt. So the result ended up being the same. They just waited for an absolute certainty that Rag would not show up for the fight. Which makes sense. Especially after the last how the last 4v5 went. That was quite depressing for them, I'm sure. That would mess anyone up. But we do see a team fight coming out. Lots of damage coming out on the Maiev, who uses the vault. Big mosh coming out, but immediately is interrupted. I couldn't tell by who, but Maiev falls very quickly, whether she's stunned or not by that mosh. There's just too many stuns, whether the mosh happens or not. Tazdingo does come out on the Tazdingo. I think he has a dot on him, doesn't look like he does. This puts LuBu in a very difficult position as they now need to try and defend both objectives, or potentially lose, actually most likely lose both keeps. But they have 3 people down, so they have to lose all 3 keeps. Which again puts them in a very awkward position, especially as this boss comes up, which Illidancing Queens predicted and are on. And I don't think LuBu knows this, they just know that they came off of mid, which does kind of telegraph it. But there's nothing they can do about it, as Artanis is just now coming up, and the boss is already completed while they rotate in to try and do that match. It does look like they're going to try and push with this boss instead of the objective, invading the siege to try and get that extra little bit of pushing power with them. But it's very likely going to be a fight for that. It doesn't look like it. ETC does zone them out. However, the Lava Wave will be coming in. Mosh is not up, but Divine Storm is. This Lava Wave also means that this wave of minions is gone instantly. And that keep goes down without contest, which means Rag is going to be in a very comfortable position as he can just take over that tower. Maiev does fall very quickly using her Warden's Cage to try and keep her alive. Big Fear does come out, as does the stun from Uther, but in range of the boss stun, which I think hit 2 of them, Johanna does fall very quickly as she stands in the silence, unable to pop that Iron Skin, and there it is, the Molten Core, as I predicted, which looks like he's trying to at least poke a little bit on this keep, as well as potentially kill the Rhaegar, which he does find the wolf kill. And GG's are being called on the side of LuBu, as there's nothing that they can do about this right now. GG. Looks like we're going on to a game 3, boys. Alright, so the right team won that map. So it does look like map pick is the deciding factor in this matchup. Which is not usually the case. So we did see a lot of damage coming out from that Gul'dan, but Sukhov's really good at keeping that damage at bay, so a lot of that was just healed straight up. Yeah, I feel like the cage was not utilized to its most effective potential. But I did kind of like the Fear Cage combo. It just didn't work as often as they would have liked. So let's quickly jump over to the talents in case anyone's curious. Never mind, let's hop to between games before any of you read the map pick, because I'm trying to hide that. Alright, so we're going there. Do that, and then that's the wrong chat. There we go. Lobby link, LuBu versus Dancing Queens. Let's just do IQ, because not Illidan Dancing Queens, it's Illidancing Queens. So IQ. What if you're comfortable with all maps? Then join HTC. Oh, wait. The depressing fact of, the HOTS community as of right now. Swap team. Swap team. Draft mode. No match history. Team 2 picks first. Too soon! Too soon indeed. I 100% agree with that. Just gotta wait for these teams to show up. It looks like we're just waiting for 2 from Illidancing Queens, but I will double check this poll and see if Pants has to kill anyone. Looks like it's 3-2. So this is a very close poll. I'm very optimistic. That was a very interesting game. Both teams had very questionable tactics. I completely mispredicted one. And yeah, I'm optimistic. I think this is going to be a really interesting game number 3. I'm going to give it another minute and then... shoot a quick reminder. Alright, I need to, quickly, do something. So I'm actually going to switch screens for just a moment, so that I can do that and it doesn't look terrible. And it looks like both teams need to have a bit of a bathroom break too. So I will be back with you guys in, just a few minutes.
Pull my heart out of my chest, train my mind so I forget. Sink your teeth into my bones, dig me out, then fill the hole. Tear me apart and watch it burn. Tear me apart and watch it burn. All that's left is a window to my soul. Come and get it. Mouth to mouth, I breathe you in. Swallow down your jagged sin. Let it drown inside my veins. The sweetest poison I could take. You make it an art, the way that you scar with every word. But before we reach the end, strip me down again. Come and get it one more time.
Alright, guys. Looks like everything's fixed. Fantastic. I just fixed it. Look, have fun. Alright, so let's hop in to game number 3. Should I roll the intro? Nah, I won't for now. I might do it next time. But welcome, yet again, to game number 3 in our series of 3 between LuBu and the Illidancing Queens. Game 1 was very much favored towards LuBu. However, game number 2 surprised us with 2 very, very bizarre compositions. But if you're just joining us and wondering how we got here aside from that, allow me to show you. So, I did not click a thing. Oh no, I did click a thing. There we go, now it's fixed. So, Tomb of the Spider Queen as well as Towers of Doom were banned out by LuBu. Brex's Holdout and Alterac Pass were banned out by the Illidancing Queens, which led to LuBu taking us to Battlefield of Eternity, where, like I said, they won quite handily. However, not being willing to give up, the Illidancing Queens decided for map pick for game number 2 and took us to Sky Temple, where they won. Which led to LuBu again picking map pick, as it seems to be favored between both of these teams, leading us to, Infernal Shrines, where I'm very curious how things will work out here. So, going back to the draft, again the Zeratul ban, KT and Stukov bans from the right side. That feels like respect coming out from the Illidancing Queens, as they know they're likely not going to be able to pick him up, as they only have 2 opportunities to do it, and they probably are prioritizing other people. But the ETC comes out as a respect ban from LuBu. Johanna is picked up first, as has been the pattern for most of Div C, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, I'm curious if we'll see another really interesting composition. Infernal Shrines is a really good map for interesting compositions. It's really unique. It has both the opportunity for macro and dueling strengths. We do see Jaina as well as the Haka coming out. Haka being very powerful on this map for the shrine clear, as well as just being able to show up. All 3 of the shrine points have bushes just everywhere, giving Haka plenty of opportunity to just show up wherever he wants, however he wants, grab someone and just drag him across the map into the enemy team, well, into the friendly team. We see another Zul'jin coming out from Illidancing Queens, which makes me think that they've been planning a lot of Zul'jin compositions, and just been trying to hold it for an opportunity that they desperately need it, and unfortunately that being week 1. But we also see the Ragnaros coming out, very strong on this map, very able to deal with the Haka, as he can just lava wave where the Haka was pushing, and just negate all of that work. We do see the Uther ban coming out. They seemed very afraid of that stun combo, and with a Johanna, I think it would actually be even worse than an ETC. Just not giving the enemy any opportunity to do anything. And the Zul'jin just railing damage in there. We do see the Rainer ban, as I was kind of thinking would happen because of the Jaina early pick. But yeah, we'll see what we have coming out. I'm curious. So far, pretty standard picks coming out from both sides, except the Zul'jin. But that seems to be a very comfort pick. I'm curious, we do still need a healer as well as a main tank, and there's our main tank, Muradin, being very strong on this map. And we do see the Cassia picked up, likely to try and deal with the Zul'jin. as well as deny it from the enemy team. I'm guessing not that, though, because that would have been double sustain damage. But you never know. Either way, it helps give them an answer to Zul'jin. As does Muradin, now that I think about it, as he has a lot of opportunities to deny physical damage. But we do see a Rhaegar and a Tassadar. Tassadar's auto-attack build being very viable now, and I feel like he's pretty solid for this objective as well, with that, what is it, his Q? Or is his Q his shield? Either way, his field of sparky things. That one. I know names! I'm curious what we'll see to round out this draft. We see a Lily trying to secure the double blind, again increasing Cassia's damage on all targets. I'm actually very much in agreement with a Lily here. There's not a lot of opportunities for the Sippy Cups. I mean, and many interrupts for the Sippy Cups, which keeps her healing high and keeps her very functional through these team fights. She's just got to watch for that Blessed Shield from the Johanna, and she'll be set. Much more standardized draft this time around, for sure. But we will definitely see what they do with this. I'm very curious. I'm going to quickly check back at the poll, because again, I'm curious. It doesn't look like the polls changed at all. We still have 3 for LuBu and 2 for the Illidancing Queens. Sparky W move of power! Cool! Someone agrees with me. That's what it should be called from now on. Sparky W move of power! I did just realize the fact that Lily does counter Tassadar as well. But yeah, we'll definitely see how this game goes. Speaking of, we do have a game to get to at this point. Let me open up the talents here and zoom out. So we have Streakwing on Lily, Makarota on Muradin, Bandit on Jaina, Alan Hicks on the Dahaka, and VDC on Cassia. I almost forgot who that was. And that is your team, LuBu! At 1 in our series of 3. We have Hooked Phoenix on Tassadar, Pina Colada on, it looks like, Johanna, Yoturu on Zul'jin, Born to Shine on the Wolfie Boy Rhaegar, and Zestrin on Ragnaros, the Fire Elemental. And that is Illidancing Queen, also at 1 point for this matchup. So we do see a lot of damage coming out on that Tassadar. I'm curious if they were focusing him or he just happened to be the one to eat the damage. Because you don't really see a Tassadar being the focus in general. We do see Tassadar picking up Psi Fusion as opposed to the typical auto attack quest on 1 for his auto attack build. So I'm very curious how we'll see this game go down. Either way, Illidancing Queens being on top of their camp as they were in Game 2 and very quickly learning their lesson from Game 1. However, they're deciding, LuBu is deciding, go ahead, take your camp. We'll take this bot camp. And you can be none the wiser. Though it does look like they predicted it. Johanna, just barely getting on this point, dealing a lot of damage to both Muradin and Jaina with that massive condemn. Muradin does go down, meaning Illidancing Queens knew what was up and decided to stop it. Very, very interesting game going into Game 3 here, as we see yet more aggression coming out from Illidancing Queens. And it's paying off very well for them as they already have 4s, and we might see them fight for this invade. looks like instead they want to try and soak and try and keep that lead. Yeah, they seem to be splitting up. Never mind, they seem to be grabbing their shaman camp. A little early in my opinion, however, they might hold it. They could always hold it. They can be very aware of the invades before they happen. Okay, they decide to pick it up, in my opinion, a little early. However, at least they are picking it up. That is a very important camp on this map. Dahaka should be able to clear that and then show up for the objective when his team does. And it looks like that is his plan. Yep, grabbing the shaman, pulling him in. That is the mark of a good Dahaka right there. Pulling the far-range minions into a range in which they are hit by the towers immediately. But speaking of towers, we have a rag tower, which LuBu just seems to not care about and is diving straight past all the damage, trying to get as much damage out as they can, but they're losing a lot of health using this tactic, and are forced to back off. Meanwhile, Illidancing Queens are nice and healthy, burning down that Dahaka who already popped his essence, and he will fall. Meanwhile, we will see Illidancing Queens zoning out the rest. Dahaka does have his burrow still, so he should be able to show up, I was going to say for the rest of this fight, but doesn't look like it. Though they get the Immortal, this camp actually did not get as much value as I thought it would. It didn't even take a tower, which means Rag can go ahead and clear that up, and this ends up being incredibly beneficial for the side of Illidancing Queens. Meanwhile, this is a Frozen Punisher, which, in case you were not aware, will disable towers, meaning it's a very beneficial Punisher in the early game. Big stun coming out from the Punisher, but no CC yet to really benefit from that. However, with that delay, right as the Punisher goes down, the fort will go down as well, meaning that Ragnaros does now have this Molten Core point if he needs it at any point in time. And we don't yet know where the next objective will be. And there's a very, very small chance, I think it's 2% of it being in the same lane. But Tassadar will be dropping very quick. He does still have his E up and available, I'm pretty sure. But Illidancing Queens will just decide, you can take this camp this time. We're ahead on XP. We can clear it easy. Go ahead and take it. But they don't want to give up their own camp as they engage very hard on this. Now, notice Jaina does not have a whole lot of mana left, and she does have her Ice Lance. But if she can't keep that chill on a target, she's going to run out of mana fast and not be able to do much of anything. As evidenced by the fact that they did disengage from that fight. If level keeps up at this pace, which Underdog XP should rectify it, unless Illidancing Queens can get an advantage, another solid advantage, they should hit 10 roughly around the same time. Now this does, again, this can be changed as it is right now. They're getting very close to level 10. There's still those minions for LuBu to soak. But with Illidancing Queens being ahead of these rotations, they will hit 10 full level in front of LuBu, giving them a lot of opportunity to try and do something more aggressive. They will clear up this camp, it looks like. But I honestly have no idea if they're going to try and push this advantage by forcing a fight. It does look like they do want to. Again, the Lava Wave completely counteracting the Dahaka's work. Lots of damage coming out on that Lily, but without a stun, she's very difficult to kill. What Condemn does stun. just long enough, I suppose, to keep her where they want her. They still have 10 advantage. 3 ults were used in that last fight. So it doesn't give them as much of an advantage as they'd like, but Lily is still dead. We also do see the objective being top lane, meaning the Shaman Camp isn't as valuable, but it is still 100% worth picking up. Very quickly, going over the ults, we do see the Archon Pure Power, not Archon Pure Power, Archon coming out from the Tassadar, Ancestral Healing from the Rhaegar, Lava Wave from the Ragnaros, Blessed Shield from the Johanna, and Tazdingo yet again from Tazdingo. For the left side, we just do see the Jug of 1,000 Cups. We also see Isolation. We see Valkyrie, giving them a nice solid engage on these fights. Ring of Frost, which we saw some crazy Ring of Frost in game number 1, so maybe we'll see some more of that. And Avatar. Speaking of the Valkyrie, there it does come out. Lots of damage does come out. Tazdingo does pop his Tazdingo, trying to keep himself alive just long enough. Ancestral comes out on the Tassadar, Johanna falling very quickly as the Molten Core attempts to burn down the enemies, and does so, as there's no way to see that rune through all of the friendly minions. So if you're Cassia, you have no idea how you blew up there. Tazdingo should be up to try and fight this, but it is a 4v4, because Cassia did fall. And in my opinion, this is a favorable 4v4 for Illidancing Queens, as they have their ally coming up sooner. Meanwhile, the Archon does come out, as well as another Lava Wave to try and zone back the enemies. Jaina falling very quickly, forced to retreat away from her team, so there's nothing little Lily can do to keep her up. This should secure the objective handily in the side of Illidancing Queens, which LuBu seems to agree with, and they begin to try and soak, trying to get that 13, so that the 13 advantage is not in favor of Illidancing Queens for this push. Now, speaking of Tazdingo, which I know I did a while ago, but I still was speaking of him, he is almost halfway to his quest, which is faster than he was going last time, and which should make him a lot more scary than he was previously. Now, we do see this fort going down very quickly. LuBu does take a little bit of free damage, but Lily should be able to heal that up just fine. Illidancing Queens was just trying to get what little of an advantage as they can. Immortal Jump should be coming up soon. So the question is, how do they bait it over the wall? Which they do with the Cassia. Still has half health, still pretty healthy, but Ragnaros getting pulled very out of position. Cleanse does come out on the Ragnaros. Johanna has her own cleanse, but can't see squat as she is isolated. The Ring of Frost unable to get any kills this time. Now, if you're LuBu, seeing that ring, which was the cornerstone of your kills in Game 1, completely not get any kills and only getting a little bit of damage that just ate another ult, which will be up only shortly after Ring of Frost, I'm wondering what that does to your morale. Apparently not much, as Tazdingo is forced out by the Dahaka Tongue, but he does manage to walk out. Yet again, another awkward position for LuBu, but they do manage to secure this bot camp after the lava wave comes through, which will give them a few minions while the lava wave's here, and they do try and go for this pre-16 fight, forcing Rhaegar very far out of position, but he seems more than comfortable just kind of sitting there doing wolfy things. And then backing up to heal. Cassia does fall very quickly. Sippies do come out, but are unable to save Muradin. Essence is popped by the Dahaka, allowing him to escape at full health, but that invade does not work. Now, if you're LuBu, you start seeing the fact that we're approaching 3 levels of death territory, and honestly, if your morale isn't already shaken, it's starting to now. There are ways to come back from this. There are plenty of ways to come back from this, as Illidancing Queens could still be way too aggressive and lose out on their opportunities. But it doesn't look like that'll be the case, as Dahaka attempts to dig out, but is killed before that happens, which does mean this keep will probably fall, as this is a 5v4 with talent tier advantage. There's not much you can do if you're LuBu. You just try and keep them from pushing on the core at this point. Maybe try and clear out the camp so they don't have the extra damage. And you just kind of wait for Dahaka to come up. But with that Molten Core, we're in a very difficult position for LuBu to do much of anything. Damage is starting to come out onto the core, not breaking the shields yet. Valkyrie does come out, as does the Tazdingo, keeping the Zul'jin very much alive and safe. Tassadar does fall, as this aggression is getting punished by the enemy team. The Wolf does try and escape, Johanna trying to escape the best she can. The totem of the Earth Totem does save Johanna's life. Meanwhile, Dahaka is, I'm guessing, just trying to get information at this point. I'm not sure why he dug there. I'm guessing he was just trying to get information or trying to get a gank if they split up. But losing a Tassadar doesn't seem to phase Illidancing Queens, and they still have the 3 levels of death. They are willing to give up their bruiser camp, just kind of trying to harass the enemy and just basically free clear it and wait for Tassadar to come back up, some ults to come back up. Just kind of buying time. Actually, it looks like they aren't even going to bother clearing it, as they are prioritizing this objective more. Now, we do see them engaging Murden very far from the friendly team, just getting completely burned by Tazdingo. Sippy is coming out very early, as Valkyrie does come out on the Rhaegar, not getting any follow-up. Lots of damage coming out, as they do have talent tier. And if I remember correctly, this is a very important talent tier for most of Illidancing Queens. Yeah, Psionic Echo, Earth Grasp Totem, Giant Scorcher. Yeah, this is not a fun position to be in, as Illidancing Queens is very much power spiked at this point. Now you can try and force a pre-20 fight, but there's no way you can stop this objective. The ring does come out, not hitting anyone, as does Archon does come out, dropping a lot of damage, finishing up that objective. Tazdingo does get popped to try and save the Zul'jin in that 1v1 duel in the back line, which it does so. Rhaegar keeping everybody healthy. We are entering what could be game-ending territory, and with that 3rd kill, things become even more difficult for the enemy team as they try and deal with this push, which does look like the red team is just going to split up and maybe try and get the Punisher straight onto core with them, which is a very valid tactic, as the Punisher does have a tendency to ignore the immediate structure. Meanwhile, Dahaka does need to pop the Burrow to try and get out of there. Sippies are popped by the Lili to try and keep everybody healthy through this core defense. Punisher is falling very quickly, but so is the other second keep. We do see the Molten Core come out, almost stunning Murden. Lots of damage coming out on the Murden, as he is just getting melted. Dahaka as well, having to burrow and pop the Essence. Both teams very low here, meaning that this was a successful core defense. Lava Wave does come in to prevent the chase. However, Illidancing Queens very close to that coveted level 20, which puts them in a very comfortable position, as the enemy team has a very long time for their 20s. Full 3 levels, in fact. They do manage to grab their Bruiser while no one's there. Just trying to get whatever they can, trying to stabilize the game. They desperately want 20. There's only so much they can do. It does look... Yeah, Ragnaros took the double Lava Waves, which means Dahaka's Global is now completely without its value, as Ragnaros can actually double soak a Blessed... Spoke too soon. Blessed Shield does come out, as does the other Lava Wave coming in, trying to zone out the enemies, which it does so. They don't want to take all of that damage, and they desperately don't want to fight under a 20 disadvantage, but at the same time, if you're Illidancing, if you're LuBu, you're starting to think you might not have a choice. You might just need to try and Hail Mary a favorable fight somewhere and desperately try and prevent this game from ending, which it does look like they are going to try and do. Ring of Frost does come out, double cleanse onto the ring, preventing anyone from going down. Isolation does go out on the Archon, meaning that he has a very difficult time maintaining that Twilight Archon. But it does look like he's managing to keep it up. I'm assuming it doesn't have much duration left. He doesn't have a whole lot of health left to go. However, neither does that core, as Ragnaros now pops Molten Core. Cassia starts dropping very quickly. Tazdingo keeping Tazdingo alive just long enough to end game number 3 and secure the victory into the hands of Illidancing Queens. Very nicely done, both teams. This was not an easy game. This was a hard-fought victory for Illidancing Queens. If you are LuBu, you have nothing to be ashamed of. That was a very close game, and a lot of interesting and unpredictable tactics coming out for the Illidancing Queens. Let's take a look at the talents quick. Oh, did I? Yeah, he did take Voodoo Shuffle. With that being a 10-second cooldown, he can mess up Jaina hardcore. I did somehow miss that talent pick. Either way, like I said, neither team has anything to be ashamed of. This was a very hard-fought victory for Illidancing Queens. And I honestly was not sure Illidancing Queens had a chance after Game 1. I'm not gonna lie. Game 1 was a pretty heavy stomp. But that seems to be a pattern in Div C's Div C's Week 1 matches. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I have been Shadonis, your host. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm enjoying doing these. So if you guys are enjoying and I'm enjoying, everything is fantastic. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for those of you who joined for the first time, and thank you for those of you who were active in the chat. I hope I was a little bit more active in the chat than last time. I'm still new to the ropes here, but yeah, again, thank you for joining, and I hope you all have a wonderful time. See y'all around.